Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Trish. I recently put out a post on my social media talking about why we left China. However, I didn't go into much detail and I thought a YouTube video would be appropriate. So I'm just going to jump straight into it because this could be a very long video. There's a lot of information and I'm basically making this video just to let you guys know what you can expect when you move to China and if you do decide to work in China. So a little bit of background. My family and I moved to China in September last year, 2019, and I was placed in a company called First Leap. So just a disclaimer, and I just want to let you guys know, the companies that I'm going to be mentioning in my video, which is my recruitment company, Career China, and my employer, which was First Leap, my ex-employer, which was First Leap, I just want to say that this is purely my experience with the companies. However, it does not reflect the organizations as a whole. In terms of First Leap, they have training centers throughout China. Some are owned by the corporate First Leap, so there's a few of them that are owned by First Leap, and then some of them are franchises, and so they all run in a different way. They still have the same standards, but some of them are privately owned, and so I don't want to paint this picture for the entire company because it is a good company. It's just my experience with the training center and the city that I was placed in that didn't work out. The same with Career China. They've placed thousands of people throughout China and it's been successful. I have friends who currently work in China and they've had a good experience. This is just my experience with them. So as I go along in the video, I'll let you guys know, more about the company. Going back to my point, we moved to China and we moved to a city called Hefei, which is in Anhui province. So when we moved, as I said, I was going with my family. My entire visa process was handled from the time I signed my contract, being March 1st of 2019. And we wrapped up the whole entire authentication visa process, say by end of June. So I handled that entire process with a visa team who was assigned to my case. And everything went well, everything was done. We had to get our, in terms of our marriage certificate, my degree, my TEFL, we had to get police clearance, medicals, all of this needed to be authenticated and then sent to China, couriered to China. And I had to do this for my family as well because we were going together. And I was on a working visa, which is a Z visa, and my family were on S1 visas, which are family visas or dependent visas. We went to China, everything was perfect. We arrived on September 1st. When we got to China, I was placed in Beijing. Basically, I was there with 70 other recruits, and these are people from all over the world who are coming to teach in China at First Leap schools. So First Leap is a training center, and we had to undergo 3 weeks of intensive training, and we were all in a hotel together. It was it was a really, really good training. It was very professional. I really enjoyed it and we learned a lot. I also made a lot of friends at training. So while we were at Beijing, everyone was placed in separate groups and we had different consultants helping us with our visa process and just getting our mobile numbers, getting our bank accounts, getting settled in China. We had a consultant to help us while we were at training. Now, bear in mind, everyone is going to different provinces. I was one of two that were going to Hefei. However, my process, when things were being done, I was in the group for Beijing, which was weird at the time, but I didn't think much of it because Hefei is one of the corporate cities, and so is Beijing. So I didn't think much of it, and I went along with the process. Now, the thing that happened to us is, before I go off into this long rant, I guess what most of you've come to this video to just, understand why did we leave. So, two things happened to us. First, there was an overstay on my family's visas, okay? And then secondly, when we tried to correct the situation, I discovered that I was working at a training center that did not have a license to hire foreigners, and they were using another city's license, and this became a problem. So two things happened that forced us to leave China. So we had to leave China. We didn't leave by choice. We loved living in China. It was an amazing experience. We had a beautiful home. We had a great community of friends. and we were just starting to build our lives in China. We were going to bring our dogs over. We had no intention of coming back to South Africa. When we moved indefinitely. So you can understand how this came as a big shock to us when all of these things started to unravel. So when you enter China, you have a 30-day entry visa. So I understood this, and I knew this before coming. It was the same for my family as well. When I got to China, by the second week, a consultant took me to the PSB, Public Security Bureau, and basically this is where they do your visas. At that point, I asked the consultant, do I need to bring my family, my husband and baby? And they said, no, you need to come alone. We are not going to do their process. I asked anyway, and I took their documents just in case. While I was at the PSB, I tried speaking to the official, and everyone speaks in Chinese. No one speaks in English, and the consultant that I was with was Chinese. And she told me, well, whilst trying to talk to an official, she pretty much yanked me out of my chair and said, don't talk to anyone. I will handle this process. And so I never asked any more questions. So at this point, I'm the only one who has extended my visa for the year. And my family has not. But my understanding from what I'm getting from the consultant is you are on the working visa and they are your dependents. And so you don't need to extend theirs. Basically, it falls under yours. Now, also bear in mind, we were inexperienced travelers at this point. We had never left the country before going to China, and we had never lived or worked in another country other than South Africa. So we didn't really understand the intricacies of the visa. And yes, I will say that it was being naive at that point from our side. However, the team that we were dealing with was very trusting, and they were handling all the other teachers, visas. So we didn't really think there was anything to worry about at this point. Then we went to Hefei, and when we got to Hefei, I met my first sleep management. And when I met my first sleep manager, 2 days after arriving in Hefei, he took me to the local police station to get my local registration done. So the way it works in China is when you move to a new city, or when you move, it doesn't matter how many times you move to a different city, you have to register at the local police station. And this is basically to make them aware of where you're coming from, the details of your visa, and where you're going to be living. So I went there, and once again I asked my manager, do I need to bring my family along? And he said, no, you just need to register yourself. I took my family's documents in any case, and I showed it to him, and he said, no, you just need to locally register. So I go home, literally take that entire file with our passports and all of our documents, and I put it away in a cupboard that's far from my baby's reach. Now, if you have a toddler, you will understand why I did this. I didn't want to leave any personal documents, any important documents lying around. We did not look at this file again until pretty much shit hit the fan a few months later. So almost 4 months later, we were at home. It was my day off, and I get a call from my landlord. And basically what she's saying is, you need to come over to the police station. So bring your family to the police station. So I immediately speak to my supervisor and another representative at the company, and I tell them, like, can you speak to the landlord and find out why we need to go? Now, she basically says she went to the police station and they told her that we have not registered my husband and baby. We haven't done their local registration. So I do explain, to my employer that you guys told me not to do it, and I went with you, and you deliberately told me not to bring my family. So what is the issue? And this is when, they blame it on miscommunication and the previous manager who worked at the company and all that stuff. So then we go and we rectify the situation, and the police obviously are a bit upset at us, but they are very kind, and they do say, okay, it's your first mistake. We won't punish you, we won't give you any fine, but don't ever do this again. Now, at this point, when we're taking our documents over, is when my husband and I realized there's a big issue. This is before we can even go to do our local registration for them. When we look at their passports, we obviously see that their visas are expired. And we immediately are shocked. And we bring this to the attention of Korea, China, and First Leap, just to let them know, guys, when I did my visa, my resident permit, why wasn't my family's done? I did ask, and you guys said no. And is this going to be an issue when I go to the police station? And it's at this point where I start to see things unravel, because I see that people don't know what's going on, and Some people are very confused, and it is obviously an issue, but at this point, nothing is really being communicated to me. So we go, I think 2 days go by, and I obviously know that this is going to become a bigger issue you know, than it seems. We get a call from the same official to come down to the police station with a certified interpreter. And I explained to her that I don't have anyone, I'm going to work, and can we use, the apps on my phone to communicate? And she says, no, this is a legal matter and it's very serious. And this is when I know it is definitely about the visas. So we go into the police station. And when we get to the police station, lo and behold, it is a big issue. They are all speaking in Chinese. They're very upset. We actually go with a friend of ours, and she speaks to them in Chinese, and she lets us know, okay, your family, your husband and baby have overstayed their visas, and they're going to charge you a 10,000 RMB fine, which is about like 21,000 rand. You either pay it or your husband goes into jail. So obviously they wouldn't take my baby, she's a minor, but my husband was liable to go to jail. And obviously at this point we say, okay, we'll pay the 10,000. And I immediately send messages to the team. At this point, a chat group is made on WeChat with Korea, China, and Firstly, my employer. And we're discussing, and I let them know this is what's happened. We had to pay a fine and sign a memorandum. We were there pretty much for almost the entire day, filling in, doing this process. We had to fill in a memorandum to acknowledge that my husband and baby had overstayed. And they say to us, look, you've paid the fine, you have acknowledged your mistake. You broke the rules of Hefei, you broke the rules of China in terms of our immigration law. So this is what you need to do. You need to now go take this memorandum and go to the Hefei PSB, the local PSB, and get your visas done for your husband and child. Simple, right? And we think everything is okay. We go home, we sleep. The next day, it gets even more serious. I call a meeting with my manager, and he comes with another supervisor. Both are Chinese. And we speak, and I let them know, okay, guys, the thing that's on my mind is my visa, my resident permit says Beijing. Do I go to Beijing to do my family's visas, or do I do it in Hefei? Now, a month prior to this happening, my supervisor, who's a foreigner, she came into the office, and she basically said to us, okay, we didn't have an administrator before, and we've got someone now to handle your visas, and we're going to change a resident permit from Beijing to Hefei. Now, whoever was teaching in that center had been on a Beijing resident permit, because when we did our training in Beijing, all of their visas were done in Beijing, just like mine. She doesn't make this seem like it's illegal or it's a big issue. Just basically saying it's an admin thing, and it's going to be sorted, and they're going to do it one by one. We don't think it's serious, because it's not made to be very serious. And at that point, we just pretty much have faith in our supervisor and our company, and we don't think that anything is out of way, or anything is sinister, or we don't think anything is serious at this point. And this is when I asked the question to my management. In that meeting, I let them know, and they have this stunned look on their face, because they immediately are very scared. They start Googling, like, what is the PSB? And I'm like, I don't know, like, you guys are Chinese, you live here, you should know. We look it up, I get the address, and I'm like, okay, this is the place I need to go. So this thing that happened at the police station happened on Friday, so we could only go on Monday, and this meeting is literally on Saturday. So we're having this meeting, and while we're having this meeting, they just say, okay, you need to go to Beijing to do it. And then they start phoning Korea, China, and everybody's having this conversation, and then all of a sudden, mid-sentence, they just stop, and they're like, oh, I think you need to ask your family to leave and go back to South Africa. And I immediately burst out laughing, because initially I just don't take it seriously. I'm like, what? And then they say, no, they need to go back, and you need to leave Hefei immediately. And this is when I get really concerned, and I say, why? What is going on? And they like, this is all they say, we don't have a license to hire foreigners in our center. And so if you go to the Hefei PSB, you're basically going to expose yourself and the school and everyone in it. And that's going to become an even bigger issue. So now I'm sitting with an issue where I can't resolve my family's overstay issue. I mean, we've paid the fine. We just need to go and do the visa. I can't rectify it because now I am the one who is in a situation that is not right. My residence permit is not right. My school doesn't have a license. Now in China, if you are a training center, public school, international school, whatever it may be, if you are hiring foreign teachers, you need to have a license for that specific school to hire that foreign teacher. My school did not possess the licenses. I don't know, for whatever reason. Could it be admin cost? I really don't know. They were never really transparent on the reason, like fully transparent on the reason. But they used corporate. They used the head office, which was Beijing. They used their license until, and I mean, I think this was how it was functioning for a long time, until the law started cranking down and getting really serious. So obviously at this point, it's like, I initially think I'm going to stay and send my family home because of financial reasons. But my husband and I, we go over it and we discuss, and I go back to them the next day with my decision, and I'm like, okay. They say to me, look, they can place me in another province, in another school, but I would have to be alone and my family would have to go home, right? And I say, no, I don't think that's going to work. I have a little child and I'm not too sure about the legalities of what happened, and I don't want to take a chance with the law. I would prefer to go home and start the process again. And I'm not angry. I'm very calm. If they even ask me, like, are you okay? You don't seem angry. You're the most calmest person we've ever met, and you are being so cool about the situation. And I said, look, there's nothing that I can do. Ranting and raving and being angry is not going to change the situation at this point. Let's come up with a solution. And look, whatever happened, you guys need to just take care of me and my family. I don't want to make a fuss about what happened. I just need you guys to understand that this was not right, and I need you guys to fix it as best as you can. And I will be fair with what I ask in terms of, I came with a list of terms, and I said, I will be fair. I will not be greedy or ask for things that I shouldn't have. I mean, we lost a lot of money, a lot of time. We spent a lot of money in this process to come over to China, but I'm just going to be fair, and I want to just leave with my family, in a good way. And so I basically asked for, what my release letter, recommendation letter, and I had some other terms on based on finance and, what they would need to do, paying for flights, reimbursing my fine, and, my salary and things like that. And they took about a day to come back with the decision. And thankfully, First Leap and Korea China definitely came to the party in terms of assisting my family and I. We were not liable for a lot of finances. We were not liable for some of the financial burdens that were to come. Some of the things, yes, we did have to pay, and we did end up spending a lot more money. But they did cover the bigger portion of the financial aspect of us coming back home. So they agreed to that. I left on good terms. Everything was okay. I had to move out of my apartment. Pretty much we packed up in a few days, and we left. Flights were booked to come back to SA, and this was all before Christmas. And we spoke to our families. Okay, we're coming home for Christmas. Everything is going to be. Just before we got onto a train, left Hefei, and we were going to go to Beijing and then fly out that night. Before this, I had communicated with the same consultant who was assisting me in terms of my visas, and I spoke to her and I asked, and this was by a phone call and by message, to say, is everything okay? Do we need an exit visa for my families to leave? And she said, no, we spoke to airport customs, we spoke to the PSB. You guys just need to get to the airport and you guys can leave. No exit visas are needed. However, when we got to Beijing that night, we were rejected at immigration. And they pretty much sent us away, and they said, no, you cannot get onto the flight. We missed our flight. And, at first they were pretty harsh, but I think once they saw Arden, who was sleeping in my arms, they really became very soft. And I mean, Chinese people are that way. They are really kind, especially when it comes to, people that have children and families. They really do care about children, and they saw the situation we were in, and I think they believed what we were saying because it was the truth. We did not purposely do this. This was just the information that we were being given by our company and, different people who we trusted, both my employer and recruiter. And here we are foreigners. As I said, we inexperienced in, traveling. We don't know the exact processes. Things are so different in China. And there's different laws in every province, and things is so, the process is very, very different. But they were very understanding. They escorted us in a good way. They were basically pushing out in a stroller, and helping us with our baggage. And these are not things that immigration, like those officials, need to do. They can be pretty harsh, but they were pretty nice and very, very kind to us. And so basically, we were put up into the same hotel that I did my training in at Beijing. The kicker was to get, what we were told at that point was, for us to leave the country, we would need exit visas. And so we didn't know the exact name or what type of visa, but we just knew that they needed to get something in their passport for us to leave. So we go to the PSB the next day and we ask, we sit there, we explain our situation to the officials. Pretty much Korea, China, and First Leap headquarters takes over, head office. Pretty much First Leap HQ, which is the headquarters or the head office, and Korea, China, they are both based in Beijing. They take over the process at this point in terms of assisting us to get our visas. So they pick us up and they take us to the PSB. When we get there, they handle, they basically tell us that they are speaking to the governor, who is going to assist us to get our humanitarian visas, assist my baby and husband to get the humanitarian visas to leave. And it takes a longer time than we thought to get. There's some negotiations, there's some meetings that needs to be held. They pretty much handle the process. And I really don't know how it was done. All I know was they handled it and they were able to get us our visas. But the kicker was the humanitarian visas. But the kicker was, upon application, we had to wait about 2.5 weeks for us to leave the country. This was just to wait for it to come back. So we spent Christmas and New Year's Day in a hotel, which was not fun. We were away from family. It was very stressful as we were waiting for these visas. We didn't know what was going to happen. A lot of stuff was going on in Beijing that was very hectic. We were being moved from hotels because my family didn't have visas. And you can't stay in a hotel in China without a visa, without a valid visa. And so obviously my visa says Beijing, so everything seems fine with me. I don't have any issues. Something I did find strange though, and I realized how serious the situation was when we got to the PSB and the team was handling our stuff. They said to me, look, if any official comes to you and asks you, what were you doing in Hefei? You have to say you were not working in Hefei, you were just training in Hefei. And so I realized how serious the situation was with my resident permit. Thankfully, it didn't come into play in terms of getting my family's humanitarian visas. They didn't get overstay stamps in their passports, which I'm hoping, didn't really cause much issues for us in terms of our visas, in terms of our visa status. And we were able to leave. Everything worked out. We left on good terms. As I said, there were no issues. There was no bad blood, no resentment, none of that. Do I wish it could have been handled better from the beginning? And of course, when I was very candid with both Korea, China, and First Leap, and I came out to them and I said, why was I hired at a school that doesn't have a license to hire foreigners? And basically the answer that I got from them was, we are so sorry. They couldn't say anything. And First Leap management did come back to me and say that the laws had changed in Hefei in the past year, and they weren't too sure of it. And my response to that was, well, I don't think that you are fully prepared to bring foreigners to China. So before you bring foreigners, you need to know everything about the law and the changes. And look, at this point, it's December. And if things changed in that past year, I think it is the company's duty to know it. So yes, I obviously would have wanted things to go better, but we didn't have a choice at this point. We had to leave. We had a situation of an overstay. Then we had a situation of me working at a school illegally. And as much as I could have been placed in another school, I didn't feel right. It was a very stressful and traumatic event that we had gone through. Obviously, I'm leaving a lot of the bits in between, what happened at the police station and us missing our trains and spending 3 weeks in a hotel, the money that we spent just living in Beijing for 3 weeks, just trying to, you know, uh, pass time. There was a lot of emotions and a lot of things that was going through our mind. Remember, we left everything back in South Africa to start a life in China, and we put pretty much all our eggs in one basket. We didn't have a backup plan. And so coming back to South Africa was very scary and daunting because we didn't know what to expect. However, things have started to work out, and I will make another video just to detail, where we are in our lives, what we've decided to do. Do we want to go back to China? Hell yes. We love China. I love its people. I don't even resent the companies that I was with because, as I said, it was just a bad experience and bad management. And things could have been done better, yes, but I have no bad blood. And I would love to go back to China in different circumstances. Another thing to just make mention to you guys is I also feel that this was God's way of protecting my family. A week and a half of us coming back to South Africa, COVID-19 went public around the world. And this is when we literally got into South Africa. We were here for about a week and a half, and this is when COVID-19 things started coming up in the news. We were actually in China when the outbreak started, but we didn't know because in China people always wear masks and there's a lot of control at the airport, checking your temperature. It's normal, it's a normal protocol. So we didn't really pick it up, but we do see it now as being a blessing in disguise for us to actually leave because things were really bad at that point when we had left in January. And when our initial plan was to come back, just take a little breather and then reapply and go back to China. Obviously, we could not with COVID-19 getting so bad. Currently, China is not accepting any foreigners or any foreign teachers at this point coming into their country. They pretty much put a stop on it until things kind of cool off with COVID-19. Fully understand it. Look, we're not ready to go back anytime soon anyway, but we will definitely return to China just because we were just starting our journey. It was an amazing time for my family, and we really grew to love and understand Chinese culture, and we saw ourselves making a home in China. So I just want to leave you guys with, what is your takeaway from my video is do your research, don't be naive, don't be so trusting because there is no utopia, there's no perfect country, there's no perfect system, there's corruption, there's issues everywhere you go in the world. You just need to kind of accept it and be one step ahead. Look, going to China is the luck of the draw. You don't know which one you're going to get. You're either going to have an amazing experience and everything go perfectly well, or you're going to have a similar experience as mine. Not everybody has been fortunate like me. They've been in my situation where people have been imprisoned and being treated really badly by their company. I was not. We were treated really well, and my company was very apologetic to our situation because they knew that it was something they had done to us. They knew their mistakes and they totally acknowledged it. So my situation, completely different. The authorities were kind to us, things worked out for us, and I can only say it is God that, made it happen that way. I can't say it's anything that we did specifically. I can only say it's God. And so just when you go to a school in China, make sure they have a license. They have a license to hire foreign teachers and ask to see it. Make sure the city that you are teaching is the same city that is on your resident permit. Make sure you get your resident permit in that city. Make sure that your school has a license to hire foreign teachers. I think there's a specific quota on how many teachers they can hire, so make sure you ask for that too. If they're not transparent and they act shady, then that's your sign that they probably don't have it. Now sometimes, and there have been a lot of scary stories that I came to learn after my experience or while I was going through my experience, is a lot of schools don't have this, and they pretty much gamble with China, with foreign teachers, bringing them over without having a license. They know it's a risk, and it's a risk they're willing to take because sometimes they get caught and sometimes they don't. But a lot of times the liability goes on the foreign teacher and not the school. You know, Chinese authorities are not going to listen to excuses of, I didn't know and it was my company. They think that you are part and parcel of the scam. So understand that, guys, it is a big legal issue. Make sure your visa gets extended within 30 days of entering China. And so basically that's my advice for you guys. Um, don't be scared. If you have any questions about China and you would like to ask me, feel free to comment below, or you can email me. I'll put my email down in the drop down section if you guys have any questions. And I do want to make more videos on the process and what living in China was like. So anyway, thank you guys for watching my very long video and being so patient with me. And until next time, goodbye.